So Greg, hello. Thanks
Hi.
for coming in to talk a little bit about economic development today. Would you give me a brief bio history?
Well, let's see. Moved here from Fort Wayne, met my wife at IU, became the first economic development director, fortunately. Now I'm a state farm agent and still living here in North Vernon. Had a great time. Had a bachelor's degree in finance from IU and then got an MBA through the University of Indianapolis. And so it's a wonderful community, and this is where I wanted to raise my family.
In your view, why is it important for Jennings County or a rural community like ours to have an economic development organization?
Because if you're not growing, you're losing. So, because we have to. I mean, if you talk to the funeral homes, you ask how many funerals we have a year, and then you go to Chat GPT and say, how many births do we have a year? We're negative every year. So we've got to be able to continue to grow, to provide job opportunities. And like I said, improve the standard of living and quality of life for our people.
You've had a really unique perspective, probably more so than anyone that we've talked to. You were the first economic development director. You've served some time on the board of directors, and then now you're the president of the North Vernon Redevelopment Commission, affectionately known as the TIF board. So can you talk a little bit, or maybe tell me a little bit about what unique role has the JCEDC played during your time of involvement in these three time frames?
You're the front of our community. You're the first thing people see when they think about moving or bringing a business or retaining a business. You're the face of what's happening. So your representation, we need to support so that we can continue to provide opportunities for these other people.
Mm-hmm. Can you recall a project or an initiative that best illustrates the value of the JCEDC's work?
Oh my. Well,
there's probably many, I'm sure.
But like I said, I would say the ones that are probably closest and nearest to my heart were the CEW when it burnt down. The community rallied. The Plain Dealer and Son gave them free letterhead. Somebody gave them a typewriter. Jerry Lamb gave them free office space. They all rallied around trying to get that building, a new building built. The other one was when Sunoco came. The community really got behind that because we just knew that this company was from the South somewhere. And when their corporate real estate guy called me to come in for a final visit, he goes, how long's your runway at the airport? And I told him, and he goes, well, we'll have to bring the small jet. So that sort of showed us the size of the entity that we were dealing with, and then come out to find out it's a Fortune 500 company that's going to start a state-of-the-art plastic bag manufacturing plant. And we were like, what are you going to do with plastic bags? They're going to replace the paper bags. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, that was their vision. Mm-hmm. And then the third one that really catapulted for me, the community, by the creation of the TIF board or redevelopment commission, was Lowe's, because that took a lot of people. The community granted them that land, no cost. That was the sealing of the deal for Lowe's, was to give them the land. And then the community just banded together, and now look.
Well, it's kind of like with a lot of our projects. We have, you do have choices. Is it something that you want to say? Sometimes you have to say no, and those are the hard ones. And you do say no to, some projects. But then to decide, yes, we want this one. You knew that Lowe's, this community knew they wanted it. So they knew they had, again, we talk about one shot. Yep. So you had one shot at putting your best package. There was no back and forth negotiating. You've had one shot.
Yeah, and they put all their cards on the table. They put North Vernon and Jennings County put every card that they could put on the table, and probably some that they had to pay forward to figure out how to take care of it once they put it on the table. But they did it, and it's just, that's the one thing about this community, that if they want something, they're going to figure out how to do it.
What would be missing in Jennings County if the JCEDC didn't exist? Any?
A few thousand jobs.
Yeah.
Less residents. You would, even though we're not a huge community, you wouldn't have all these job opportunities. These people would happen to be going to Columbus or Seymour or Madison, they probably pick up and move. School corporation would be half the size that it is today. We wouldn't have half the stuff that we have in downtown or the businesses that we have to support the community. Without this, it wouldn't not have happened. It's back to the field of dreams. Build it and they will come. Well, you built the economic development program, and the community has bought into it, and it's sustained itself through 35 years, and that's the glue that's brought everything together.
Do you remember any specific resistance to a project that maybe you were working on that you really were like, oh my gosh, I can't get this across the finish line?
Well, the toughest one was when the Carpenter Body Works building was for sale, and the company did not tell the employees that the building was for sale.
Wow.
So we had to parade various companies and ethnicities of those companies through while the employees were still working in the building. And that's where a lot of it, letters to the editor, the stares at the grocery store that you're trying to get rid of my job. And technically, we're trying to get you a new job with another company that's going to continue to operate. And that was probably the toughest time. Like I said, once the CEW building was starting to be rebuilt after their fire, and the success of the Sunoco project and 1,400 people applying for 200 jobs, you could just see it start to snowball then.
Limitations. What were some of the big financial limitations usually? That seems to be
financial and technical. Because again, 35 years ago, we didn't have computers. So developing marketing materials, anything of that, it costs money. You had to pay somebody else to do it and put it together. Well, you may not have had the funding to do it. So that was the constant thing, was dollars. And selling people on our location. Because at that time, we didn't have a bypass. The highways weren't as good as they are today. Even though we're only 11 miles off the interstate, it still was a little tough. But Lowe's solved that problem.
You talked a little bit about the airport.
Oh,
Don't you I believe that the airport is a hidden gem in Jennings County. That
the airport, especially since it's been named the Airport of the Year twice. It's the only airport that's ever been named that twice. That was a plus. Again, you couldn't have had Sunoco fly in.
Or Lowe's. Lowe's has a requirement?
Lowe's flew in. And then the other requirement for those two, and this is not one that doesn't really get advertised, but she's on your board, is the hospital. Because Sunoco said, if you don't have a hospital, we're not coming. Because we're not driving 30 miles or 20 miles to take an employee that got injured and risk something going wrong. So you have to have a local hospital, and that was a key. Were
you part of that local team? Was that your tenure when you were having to rally the local troops to save the hospital, find the Sisters of Charity, and the whole...
We even went on recruiting trips for doctors. We would go to schools and try to say, hey, you want to be a doctor? Come to Jennings County.
And we're doing that today. I mean, these days, we host...
Yeah, we were out trying to recruit physicians and get people to move here, because the physicians that we had were getting older and they were retiring, and we needed to backfill for the younger ones. So yeah, that was the main stipulation from Sunoco, is that if you don't have that, so when we said we do, and we, I think that was when Lou, he has the pest company, or he did. He passed away.
Lou Vaughter?
Lou Vaughter.
Vaught. No, Lou Vaught.
He ran the hospital.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep. He was the hospital director. So he and I would go on recruiting trips.
Tell me about when Regal closed. Was it something that you weren't... It's kind of like Muscatatuck. When the hospital... It wasn't like it was a surprise.
No.
Because of textile company in
Dalton,
the north.
Georgia. Well, and again...
Because they were an integral part of our community. I think we forget about Regal.
And again, that was another one that Howard Lickerman was running it, but I don't think he was at that time.
Andy Smithson was running it when it closed.
But Howard lived in Columbus. His wife was a city councilman. So even though the factory was here, they were still sort of local. And so you get a little bit of a change there. And I'm sure Georgia put some incentives out there that maybe the state or we couldn't match. And maybe we didn't even get an offer to match, you know?
They ran with 2 locations for a while. I think
Yep.
they were, is it Ellijay, Georgia?
Yep.
That they had a plant. They had, of course, had the plant here, but they were housed or located. Their mother parent company was in England.
Right.
So I just remember the closure of that was.
And they had some controversy with some sewer issues and dye and
Contamination.
And so, and I'm sure the other facilities were probably newer than the one that they had here, probably easier to adapt for manufacturing. So, but they even helped us at the beginning because they made a special rug for us to give. That was a gift when a company visited.
I've seen.
It's somewhat of a triangle with routed edges, and it says "Welcome to Jennings County." It was green around the edges because that was our color that we used at that time in our brochures, and it had green letters with white, and so it was one of the regal. So we would say, "Here's a regal welcome to Jennings County" when somebody would come, because everybody knew of Regal rugs. Because if you were in Macy's or all Dillard's or any of those other stores, that's the premier rug for bath and area rugs shoot, I just went blank. Regal.
Yeah, they were known for their designer rugs.
Yeah.
I believe they even had a designing office even
did.
in New York at one point.
One of the ladies lived in Columbus. The other thing that they had a unique person here, 2 ladies, and they would use the computer spectrum to judge colors. They had 2 ladies whose eyesight was more accurate than the computer spectrum on the colors of the rug that they were using. So they would be the final judge after it went through the inspection process.
I think that's one thing, thinking about economic development through the years, that you all, again, you did everything you could to get. I mean, I know how it is when you're saying yes to a lot of things, but the diversity of our companies here are just, it's wonderful because it's kind of sustained us through the mid 2000s, when it was, when we were going through a lot. We weren't so heavily tied to manufacturing or automotive.
Automotive at the time, that was the one that was hurting everybody at that particular point. So the diversification with, Lowe's of distribution, you got Regal manufacturing rugs. You had one plant, Arvin, that was doing the pipes. And then you had Sunoco making plastic bags. That was on the front end of innovation. So it's
counterweights at NVIC.
Counterweights for the forklifts.
I mean, it's really the gamut.
Yes, I mean you have your tool and die makers are a lot with the automotive, and they're usually your barometer if the economy's doing well or not. So if you see your tool and die makers starting to go down a little bit, that means they're not changing out the parts, and you're seeing things slow. But the tool and die makers around here, they've helped sustain us. Some of the highest paying companies that we have, and they usually don't even ask for assistance.
Yeah, we're
There's
very
probably
fortunate.
a few hundred jobs, well, more than that, maybe 300 to 400 jobs in the tool and die area.
Why do you think people outside of the board or some of our elected leadership misunderstand the work of the Economic Development Commission? Why do you think that is? Because it's out there. A misunderstanding.
In today's time, they don't understand, and they may not want to understand because they've formulated an opinion based upon social media or what they think or what they've heard at the grocery store or wherever. And if you try to explain, sometimes the ears go closed. They don't want to listen to it. But I think just keeping an awareness of out there that the annual, you do an annual report. The more that could get out there, the paper's not what it used to be. So it's not as popular to publish that in the paper about how many jobs have been created, how many tax dollars have been saved, or whatever. But I think it's just trying to make them more of a community awareness. You don't want to promote yourself because then it looks like you're patting yourself on the back.
Yeah.
You need to get a group that does it more for you, like your board or economic development or TIF board or the city council. Those kind of people can start to help that conversation spread. Because what is it they say? If you do something bad, they'll tell 7 people, but if you do something good, they'll only tell 3. So we got to get that built up because they don't understand. They just think that you're here and stuff just happens miraculously. It just falls in your lap. And that's not the case. We all know that.
Well, we all know that, Albert has, like you said earlier, mentored both of us. I'm not supposed to be here in the office.
No.
I mean, if I'm working here, I'm not probably where I should be.
You're not
probably
out
same
there
thing with
meeting
you.
with industry leaders. You're not. No.
Learning. I mean, you talked a little bit about some of the people around the state that you've been fortunate enough to engage with that's helped you along the way. You want to mention any of those folks that have been?
Jim Plump, he was the guy that I met with before I got the job. And he actually took the time to educate me on what the process is, who's the people that I needed to meet with, so I could hit the ground running. And without his assistance, I probably wouldn't have gotten the job. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
And he's still doing that today.
And he's still there today. Brooke Tuttle was another good one. When I went to Columbus to do economic development, it's a completely different way of doing business when you went to Columbus versus what we were doing here. Different expectations. No, not
budget.
They had the money. Let's put it that way. So when you have what is it? The old saying is, if you got a problem, you don't have money, you got a problem. But if you have a problem and you've got money, you may not have a problem. So a whole different level of what we could do in Columbus versus what we were financially able to do here.
So isn't it pretty impressive what happens here?
Oh,
with as little, as how mindful we are.
Right.
Or have
and
been.
It's been amazing. Like I said, the other one, the lieutenant governor at the time when I started in economic development was John Mutz. And he was very pro economic development, huge economic development fan. In fact, he ran the Department of Commerce. That was one of his departments. And he was the guy that had final say. And he was very critical to our success, by putting, like I said earlier, putting that road, water, and sewer in for CEW for 50 jobs at $4 something an hour. That infrastructure wouldn't have been there when Lowe's showed up 6 or 7 years later.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the role utilities play in support of economic development back when you started and probably today. I mean, the utilities, the Duke Energies, the Hoosier, the REMC, I think people don't realize the player that they are in these.
Well, when you talk about finance, Duke, REMC, obviously they have their territories, but they helped increase our professionalism because a lot of times they would help prepare our materials so that we could present, and it didn't cost us anything to say, hey, I need to do this because we've got this company looking at this piece of property or this building that you serve. This is what their annual KWH is going to be. So can you help us out? And they would help put the materials together. They might even participate in the meetings with us if there was utility questions. The other one that's important too is our water utility, because everybody's got toilets. You have to have so many toilets for so many people. You got to have sprinkler systems for the size of the building. So you got to have water pressure. You got to have quality water. Those are all pieces of the puzzle that you have to have in order to retain or attract new entities. If you don't have the water supply, look at GT. When they came in, had to increase the capacity out there and they've doubled the size of their building already. So those are all critical pieces that it's not just, oh, I've got this piece of dirt, this is perfect. You got to put all these other components together to make it happen. And it takes a lot of people to make that go forward.
I think people forget about the impact and the importance of infrastructure because you don't see it.
Oh, no. But like we said earlier, it'll be here 50 years from now. So if you do it now and you do it right, that can go a long way. Mm-hmm. And it's going to cost less today than it will 25 years from now.
Right.
So it's just, you have to make sure you have that in place.
Mm-hmm. Anything I haven't mentioned that you want to share that maybe comes to light that you didn't get a chance to elaborate on?
Well, I will say our board of directors that started with Judy being the president, Albert, Donnie Spider, Les Helm, Don Eggleston, and I know I'm going to miss some. Without all of them and their support, I wouldn't be here today. I don't know what I'd be doing, but I wouldn't have been doing economic development, which is what I love. My wife will tell you that if there is one love of a career in my life, it's economic development. And by being on the redevelopment commission, that's afforded me that opportunity to still stay on the fringes of it and still be a part of it. But economic development it's so critical for our communities, for our youth, my grandkids, your grandkids. Without it, what is their future going to look like? And I want to try to control as much as we can to create a future for them. And so without all those people, yeah, I wouldn't be sitting here. I don't know what I'd be doing. But I'm grateful to them for the opportunity. I'm grateful for their support. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you, Greg Hicks.